Hi everyone, I'm Lorraine Driscoll and this is another episode of Building Better Brains, where each week I talk about the root causes of why your child might be struggling with learning, reading, and behavior, and what are some solutions that reach way beyond the limitations of IEPs, medication, and endless tutoring. Today I want to talk about learning gates. Last week I talked about brain integration therapy, and today I want to talk about the very aspect that brain integration therapy helps to unlock, which is blocked learning gates. And let's dive in and just kind of start talking about what that involves. So learning gates are pathways where information passes through your child's sensory system. So through their visual, auditory, the other sensory systems, motor, whatever. And then if the learning gates are functioning optimally, they should be directing them to the correct area of the brain. And the best way to think of these gates, the reason why we call them blocked learning gates, is because these learning gates are like pathways. And basically it's how children receive, transfer, store, interpret information. And the problem obviously will occur when there's breakdown with that. So when there is a glitch, meaning it's minor, a dysfunction, meaning moderate, or a disorder, meaning more severe, this is what we call a blocked learning gate. And moderate to severe disorders, are really just a matter of how severe it is. And on the checklist, which I'll be making available really soon, you can see that when there is only a few glitches, or a few checks, I should say, then likely it's just a glitch. And often parents will say, yeah, it's not really severe. And then like 9.5 times out of 10, when kids are checking off every check in that box, oftentimes those issues are severe. So you might be wondering, okay, so what unblocks these learning gates? And what unblocks these learning gates is obviously brain integration therapy, which I talked about last time. And also nutrition, gut healing, addressing food sensitivities, and so forth. So as important as it is to address the learning gates from the perspective of brain organization, it is really, really crucial to do the gut healing and the nutrition. And that is exactly what I do in my program, The Full Potential Formula. So often it's not uncommon for a child to have more than one blocked learning gate. Often they will have more than one. At times there will be just one. And again, that's the difference between it being mild, moderate, severe, or whatever the case may be. So there are 4 learning gates. The first one is the visual processing gate. The second one is the writing processing gate. Third is the auditory processing gate. And then fourthly is the focus, attention, and behavior learning gate. So let's dive into the visual processing gate first. So this is not like 20/20 vision. This is not something you can like go to the eye doctor and get tested for, to have your child tested and hope that, everything's good. I want to just actually mention that about the evolution of reading. So reading is not natural. And it's great, it's fantastic, but it's not natural. So it's something we have to learn. It's a skill that we don't just acquire from an evolutionary perspective the way we did with walking, right? Nobody had to teach us how to walk unless there was some health issue. It evolved naturally. And so for the most part, even though we have had writing and text for thousands of years, most of society has not been reading for thousands of years. Only a select few or elite group of people in the history of humanity has actually been reading. So for the most part, none of us developed any genes or, evolutionary, growth or whatever in terms of being able to read and develop the skills that are necessary to read. So reading is not natural. It has to be trained, it has to be explicitly taught. And how does this link into visual processing? Because early readers, we need to teach them to track with their finger to start, right? And we need to teach them to track left to right. Because in certain cultures, people read right to left. In other cultures like Japan, they're reading in columns from top to bottom. So it's not a natural process. And then if you throw in issues with visual processing issues, either in the brain or with the eyes and the musculature and the eye tracking or eye teaming or coordination, there's a lot of chances for breakdown to occur with decoding and so forth, or comprehension, because their brain is working too hard. So what should happen is the tracking should, with time, become automatic and just switch to the right hemisphere of the brain, which is responsible for the automatic movement of the eyes. However, as I mentioned, if there are weak connections in the brain and the visual cortex, if there are unstable eyes, this is going to result in poor tracking, poor eye teaming, poor the saccadic eye movements, meaning being able to go from one target to the next. This is where we'll see kids losing their place or have a hard time copying from the board. And this is where the challenges start to occur. So signs that your child has a blocked visual processing gait are they do letter reversals or number reversals. They tend to skip short words but can read the long ones. Their reading will start off smooth but become more labored, and they'll make more mistakes as they go on, and this is because of eye strain and eye fatigue. There may be often when it's not true dyslexia and it's more visual processing disorder. This is where parents will say they have terrible reading comprehension. They can read, they can decode, but their reading comprehension is poor. And this is because they're using all of their working memory in order to decode, they're using all that mental energy to process and decode the letters. That's not an automatic process, so their brain is not free to be able to understand the meaning of the text. Other signs, especially in older children, is they can read but they become fatigued really easily, and they might even start yawning shortly after they begin reading. So the writing process gait number 2, I often think of this as kind of the dysgraphia gait, though that's not always the problem, because the writing processing gait is so connected to visual spatial skills. And when children come to me, have really poor penmanship, really poor handwriting, or they can write but they have a hard time getting their ideas on paper, like they can't write and think at the same time, that's because, again, there's a disconnect often with the corpus callosum. And so what happens is these kids will often be told people will think they're just being sloppy if they have poor penmanship, or they're lazy because they're quite capable, they're smart, they can give you the answer, but they're not willing to write it down. That's the complaints that parents will hear, or the parents will even say themselves. And it's just because what's happening, because there's a disconnect in the brain, they're using so much mental energy, and it's exhausting. So this gait is I shouldn't say often, but it's not uncommon for it to be blocked in gifted children, and for it to be the only gait that's blocked, where they are gifted in math or, whatever, critical thinking skills or even reading, but to write stuff down, it becomes a real challenge. So signs, again, that this gait, the writing gait, is blocked are letter reversals, poor ability to copy from the board. They might actually have dyspraxia as well. That's really common because that is connected with visual spatial skills. They might have poor penmanship and spacing with letters, like either between the lines or the letters in the word itself. They often are the kids who are very smart. They can share the information orally. They really struggle to get it down on paper. So doing assignments and test taking becomes a real challenge. And this is where I'll see people who are really good in math. They can do the mental math really well oftentimes, but the minute they have to start writing it down and showing their work, that's where they start losing points and getting into challenges with their marks. So the other gait is the auditory processing gait. This is, parents often think if there's attention problems that this is because there's a blocked auditory processing gait, which can be. However, that's more likely related to the next gait I'm going to talk about. The auditory processing gait is much more common when there are reading difficulties. And so signs that gait is blocked are that phonic sounds don't stick. They have difficulty learning sight words or remembering letters or phonic sounds and so forth. They guess at words. That happens so much, right? They might have trouble sequencing, like days of the week, days of the month, numbers, whatever. Or they'll sound out the same word over and over and over again. So they'll come across the word dog 10 times in a text and it just doesn't seem to stick. And another big clue is that their spelling is not phonetic. So they just kind of spell it like the letter sounds. The last gate, the focus, attention, and behavior gate. There are many reasons for this gate to be blocked. When this gate is blocked, I definitely do not want to just focus on educational therapy and cognitive therapies. I really want to look into nutrition, gut health, and so forth. Food sensitivities, toxicity, there are so many reasons. So one of the reasons from a brain perspective, brain organization perspective, that this gate is blocked is it will result, first of all, in poor memory and learning disabilities. And this is because they are using all of their cortex to be able to focus or manage a behavior or regulate their emotions. So there's not a whole lot of extra, rent space to be able to process and analyze and read or remember and so forth. And often with these kids, when there's focus, attention, and behavior, as the title says, that's where you're going to see impulsivity issues, behavior issues, ADHD, and so forth. Sensory processing disorder is really common. They might be fidgety or hyperactive. They also might perform well one day and then not so well the next. And again, that's brain organization, but also signs of something going wrong biochemically. And they might be the kids you have to sit with to get the work done because they have such a hard time focusing that they have a really hard time doing independent work. And lastly, there may be memory issues, which I did mention, but again, they're using all of that energy to focus and manage emotions or filter out distractions or whatever. So that's going to really affect their ability to do well in school. So basically, there can be, as I said, there can be more than one blocked learning gate. It's not uncommon. And the wonderful thing about this is that there's brain integration therapy and nutrition to help first give the brain its building blocks and make sure it's nourished in order for it to make those new connections in the brain. And that's what brain integration therapy in my program, the Full Potential Formula, is all about, is corrections rather than compensations. So if you liked this video, please share, leave a comment below of what learning gate you think might be blocked within for your child. And head over to my website, take the free quiz, and feel free to set up a free 20-minute Better Brains consult to learn more about my program and to tell me about what is going on with your child so that I can help you identify 3 things that you can start doing today to help them start reaching their full potential. Thanks for watching.